Bullseye, what are you doing? Are you messing up my set?
What's up, guys? This is Allie and welcome to Yin Yoga. Yin Yoga is the opposite of Yang, which is what we normally do in regular yoga. In Yin, we hold the poses for 3 to 5 minutes each, and in doing so, we allow the muscles to relax so the connective tissue can open up. And so the poses are simple, they're on the floor, no holding or balancing, so don't worry. What you'll need for this entire session are a few props. You can use a pillow as a bolster. 4 blocks is what I recommend, or you can use books and 1 towel, or you can also use a blanket. To start out, grab your pillow or your bolster and 2 blocks or a couple books. And you can place the blocks in a T formation, like so, maybe 6 inches apart. And you're going to lay down on the blocks for a supported chest and back opener. So position the first block on your mid-back before you bring your head down. And you can go ahead and put the pillow under your legs, maybe butterflying the knees. And just letting that bottom block push against the middle spine so that it opens up the front of your spine. The front of the spine doesn't get very much attention. If you can imagine, we're hunched over at our desks or at work all the time. And after some time, the energy there becomes stagnant. And so by doing this pose, just to start out with, it really kind of opens everything up in a nice, gentle way. It allows the energy to start flowing, to start moving through the body. So you might notice some interesting sensations there, especially if you're not used to moving your spine in this direction. Allowing the weight of your body to just pull down into the floor. Notice the weight of your body as it presses into each block. Breathing deep. Really allowing yourself to come to this present moment and letting go of whatever you may have brought to the mat with you today, whether it's things that are going on in your life, things that might be stressing you out, just let them go. The mat is your sacred place. And on your next inhale, you can go ahead and roll over to your right side into a fetal position. Just enjoy the sensation in your spine. Give it a little counter stretch. And you can come on up to a seat in your own time. For this next pose, Baddha Konasana, we're going to be butterflying our knees out, bringing the soles of our feet together. And you might just be here without any props, but if you want to use some props, maybe you have some knee issues or some hips are tight, you can put some blocks underneath the knees to give them some support and then come over. Another option is to take the blocks or books, if you have books, place them on your feet and let your forehead just gently hang out on that block. Another option is to tuck a blanket or a towel or even a shirt right under the edge of your seat. This is especially good if you have tight hamstrings. It'll allow you to come forward with a little more ease. But really, you can use the props in any way to any advantage that you might feel best about, or everybody's body is different. So this is a gentle hip opener. Remembering to connect the breath. Connecting the breath to each sensation that you feel is really important. A lot of times we encounter sensations of stagnant energy, and this can be in the form of tension, or maybe you get shaky or feel some struggling in certain muscle groups. So when you breathe, you can allow the breath to help dissipate that tension. But just imagine, once that tension goes away, that's just the energy leaving the body. Maybe by now those hips are starting to soften a little bit. If you feel any pain in your knees, or maybe in your IT band, you may want to go ahead and put those blocks under the knees. You might be feeling a little bit of stretch in your lower back as well. If you're not using the blocks to prop your head up and your head is hanging, you might feel a nice stretch in the back of your neck, and maybe a stretch throughout your entire back, so from the crown of the head all the way down to the tailbone. A few more deep breaths here before we wrap up. All right, slowly coming on up. You may want to bring the knees together, shake them out a little bit, just soften those hips some more. Just notice the sensation there. Next, we're going to set up for Paschimottanasana, which is your forward fold. Again, if you have tight hamstrings, you can go ahead and tuck a cushion under your seat to give yourself a little more support there. And maybe you want to stack the blocks or books just up on top, on your thighs, just to give yourself a little more. You might be sitting up nice and tall, and that might be as far as you can go today, and that's completely fine, just so long as you feel that stretch in the hamstrings. Other people sometimes use the cushion or a pillow to prop their head up. If you're not using the cushion below you, you can always bring the blocks out in front of you and just rest your arms on them next to your legs. Sometimes I like to also put a pillow on top of both of those blocks, like a little bridge, and just hang out right there. So there's lots of options that you can use. If you're a little more flexible, you don't have to use any props at all. Another option is to take a strap or a towel or a shirt and bring it around the soles of the feet to bring yourself closer. One thing that's really important to note with yin yoga is that when you go into a stretch, you're not trying to stretch for distance or for depth per se. Sometimes when we stretch, we kind of feel competitive or disappointed in ourselves if we can't get to a certain length or certain point. But the purpose of yin isn't to go to that certain point, it's to go inwards. So on a scale of 1 to 10, your stretch should bring about a 6 or a 7 in terms of pain. And once you hit that, you can just hang out. The forward fold is said that it's really good for calming the nervous system. So if you're having a stressful day and your nerves are just kind of out of whack, you can always try a forward fold. See what it does for you. Remembering to breathe, connecting the breath to those sensations that you might be feeling. This pose is coming to a close soon, so make sure you take some nice final deep breaths. And to finish this pose up, you can go ahead and put your props to the side. And you might want to shake your legs out a little bit. They're probably a little bit stiff underneath, so. Next, we're going to come into Upavista Konasana, which is a seated forward fold, but it's a wide angled forward bend. So you're going to bring the legs out and focus on bringing that belly forward first before you come down to the floor. One option is to take a pillow right in front of you to lay on, or if that's too low, you can always take a couple blocks or books and put them under the pillow first to give yourself some leverage there. What I like to do is lay 2 blocks down and then put the pillow on top, so I can just come over. It's a good elevation where I keep at that 6 or 7 on the pain scale. Of course, if you have tight hamstrings, you can tuck a cushion underneath you, and you might just be sitting up straight. You might not be able to fold forward, and that's perfectly fine. We're opening up the inner thighs with this pose. And the channels of energy there are very important. They're actually known to help with migraines if you get them. They won't completely get rid of your migraine, but they will help to alleviate it. So it's worth giving it a try. Remembering to breathe, connecting that breath to those sensations. Seeing if you can play with those edges. I like to call them the edges of compassion because they're just kind of on the brink of something that hurts, but also something that can be very invigorating. Continuing to breathe. We'll wrap this pose up soon, so make sure you take some nice deep breaths. And coming on up, and put your props aside, and to bring the legs in carefully, go ahead and bend them and shake them out. Next, we're going into double pigeon pose. So you're going to take one leg out in front of you and the other one on top of it. So they almost look like a square coming from the hips over to the knees. And you'll want that top foot to be hanging off of the leg. If you have it on the inside of the leg, it's going to put some strain on that knee. This is option 1 for square pigeon. You can take some blocks, hang out on the blocks in front of you, or maybe place them in your lap and rest your head on them. Now that version of square pigeon might be too much, so you can also go into Gomukhasana, called cow face pose, which is where the knees are stacked on top of each other. And of course, you can stack a block on the knee and rest your chin on it if you'd like. This is option 2. Another option is go into Padmasana, which is lotus pose. That might be enough. If the seated positions don't work, you can always go into a supine pigeon pose on your back with eye of the needle. Go ahead and bring that leg over the top, pull the leg towards you. Another option is to place a block underneath the bottom foot to give yourself a little more support. And you can just hang out there on your back. I like to do the regular square pigeon and use a couple blocks, but everybody has a different version. So just do what works best for you. This is a deep, deep hip opener. And it might be a little bit of a struggle. And the reason for that is because we hold a lot of emotions and a lot of history in our hips that we don't often realize. And because we're seated a lot, that energy just kind of builds up and it doesn't have a chance to release. So while you're here, I want you to just take notice of what comes up for you. Any kinds of emotions or thoughts that might be disturbing you, any stressors in life. Some things that might get trapped in the hips are disappointments, unmet expectations, worries or fears or anxieties. On each inhale, inhale something positive, and on each exhale, see if you can let something go. The process of yin is letting go of things that don't serve you anymore. Remembering to breathe. A couple more deep breaths here. And to wrap this pose up, you can just sit up and you maybe unravel the legs if you're seated. If you're on your back, you can always just switch legs and stay on your back. Setting up for the other side, again, if you're seated in the square pigeon pose, make sure that foot is hanging off the leg. All the other options are there for you as well. One thing I always notice with one side versus the other is that one side is always a little more tense or a little more loose than the other. And this is totally normal. Again, coming into the present moment, becoming aware of the things that arise, the things that come to the surface. As you face those tensions head on, it's kind of like life. How are you going to handle it? Are you going to stop breathing? Are you going to freeze up or struggle a little bit? Or are you going to breathe and help that tension go away? Help come at it from a different angle or a different perspective. They say the way we are on our yoga mats is the way we are in life. So if you go to a class and try to compete with other people, I know this because I used to be like that, it kind of speaks to how you are in your daily life. This could even be a way of dealing with boredom. Some people get bored on the mat, especially in yin yoga, because you're holding the pose for so long. And so how do you deal with boredom? Do you get fidgety? Do you get anxious? Do you wish you were somewhere else? Know that you are exactly where you are supposed to be. At any given time, here you are. Remembering to breathe. We'll be wrapping this side up soon, so make sure you get some nice deep breaths. Continue to play with those edges. And coming on up with one next inhale, go ahead and shake the legs out. Feel the sensations in those hips. Next, we're going to set up for Sphinx pose. So we're going to turn around and go onto our bellies. And this is a low Sphinx pose. So you're going to come onto your elbows. And rather than just coming straight up, you're going to kind of pull forward and then come up. And you might feel a little more space being created in your spine between each vertebrae when you pull forward first. If this is too much on your lower back, you can come down a level. Or if you have more flexibility, you can always push up into Bhujangasana, which is a cobra pose. Of Of course, that might be too much for you. So another option is to just come onto a pillow for a little extra leverage there, a little extra height. I usually just like to stay on my elbows because after 3-minute mark, this pose does become a little intense. So we don't actually hold it for as long as the other ones. Our focus with this pose is on the lower back and the belly actually. So you might notice a little tug on the lower back. If you feel any pinching at all or any pain, definitely go down a level because we don't want you to experience any pain in this pose. But your lower back just might have a gentle tug on it. You might notice it's opening up a little more. And one way to help it open up is by relaxing the belly. So take notice of your belly. Is it tense in any way? Sometimes we like to hold our anxieties here in the belly and it affects our digestion. So you can go ahead and take some deep breaths. Let that belly just soften and become supple. If you're lower, you can let the belly melt into the floor. You are safe here, and you can let your belly relax. We're not sucking it in anymore. Remembering to breathe. If your neck gets tired at all, you can always take a block and just prop your head up on the block. A couple more deep breaths here. And to finish up, you can go ahead and lower your head to the floor. Just letting your lower back release. Maybe you want to shake the hips back and forth to let them soften. And then we're going to go ahead, place the hands under the shoulders and push back. We're going to go into child's pose, connecting the feet. I like to go into a wide knee child's pose, bringing the hands beyond the head. Really letting gravity sink those hips down towards the heels. And when your knees are nice and wide, you can really let your belly fall through. Some people like to take blocks just as a little extra support or leverage to get more of a stretch in the underarm area. And for this pose, we're just going to stay in briefly to help release our lower back after Sphinx pose. With each inhale, go ahead and send oxygen down into your lower back and let your lower back widen. Let any remaining negative thoughts flow through the point between your eyebrows and into the floor. They no longer serve you. Coming on up to all fours again. You can do a couple cat-cows just to release the back even more if you need to. Arching the back up and curling under. All right, we're going to be setting up for saddle, so we're going to go into a low lunge first to get the hips ready. So you bring the left foot through, and you can use 2 blocks on either side to prop yourself up. This is option 1. Something that I've found that is really beneficial is to take the blocks underneath the top leg and just let your top leg rest there. And this reduces the stress that's on your hips to stay up. You might notice that the iliopsoas muscle, which runs from the top of the hip down to the inner thigh, is getting a nice little tension right there. The psoas muscle is said to be the muscle that helps with depression. And because we're seated so much, it doesn't get attention either. So this really helps to release that. So if you're feeling sad or down, you might want to try an iliopsoas stretch like this one. And pushing yourself back into a kneeling hamstring stretch. This is the counter stretch. These stretches are short because we're just preparing ourselves for the next pose that's coming along. Feeling that hamstring stretch, that little tug under the leg, pointing the toe up to the sky, using the blocks for support, letting that back stay straight. Seeing if you can square those hips. And that basically means squaring the hips up with the top of your mat so they're in line. Pulling forward to the other leg, go ahead and bring the right leg forward. If you want, you can go blockless, or you can prop your hands up on either block on either side. Or of course you can take the blocks underneath that right glute. Feeling a nice stretch in left hip. Depending on your flexibility, you might be higher or lower. And go ahead and remove the blocks. And then we'll go ahead and push back into that hamstring stretch again with the other leg, pushing the toes up towards the sky, using the blocks on either side to prop yourself up. Nice flat back, squaring the hips out. So if you imagine pulling that right hip towards the back of the room so that it's in line with your left hip, and then both hips are in line with the top edge of your mat. All right, bringing that leg down. Now we're gonna set up for saddle pose, and this pose can be kind of intense. You're gonna need actually 4 of the blocks, which is what I like to use. And my cat actually chewed up the 2 center blocks, as you can see. So you can start to set up the blocks in any way you like. If you're a little less flexible in your hips and your legs, you may want to have a very high wall of blocks. And if you have any issues with your ankles, like I do, I like to put something soft right at the bottom, and then I prop my pillow or bolster up on top of the blocks. With the feet together and the legs are wide, go ahead and position that top pillow right on the lower back and lay back very carefully, very gently. Your knees should be touching the floor if you can get them. If this is too much for you, again, you can build your wall a little bit higher. And you might be just kind of at a higher angle there. Some people are more flexible and they're able to just use the blocks, or they're able to use no props at all and go all the way down to the floor. Except, as you can see, I have a space under my low back, so maybe you want to put a block under the lower back there, if that helps you. So again, this is also going to open up the back if you're this low. But the focus is really opening the entire front of the body. So all the way from your quads, you'll feel the stretch through your hips and through your back. I like to use my original prop wall, as you can see. I've got all 4 blocks under me and I've got my pillow. You can let the arms rest out to the sides and really breathe here. This pose is going to challenge you. It's going to challenge your quality of breath and your quality of thoughts, your quality of emotions. Feeling that sensation, feeling the intensity. It's very easy to get to a 6 or 7 on this pose. If you have any lower back pain at all, see if you can prop yourself up a little bit higher. Another option is to just not use any props and maybe just hold yourself up on your arms and just lean back a little bit. That might be enough for you. It's easy to get edgy. As you can see, I'm even twitching. Couple more deep breaths here. You're almost done. Now to get out of this pose, we are going to be very careful. We're not going to pop out of the pose at all, but we're gently going to place our hands next to us and just prop ourselves up to push ourselves up. Letting that back kind of release. Maybe you want to shrug your shoulders a little bit. And to help release the back a little bit more, we're going to come down all the way to our backs without our props. And we're going to bring the knees into the chest. You can go ahead and roll the knees, drawing circles on the ceiling, going in each direction, letting the lower back release, letting the hips release. That was pretty intense. Now you're going to take your left leg, pull your knee towards your chest, and place a block next to your right hip. And go ahead and grab that knee and pull it across your body. This is a right side twist, twisting the left side of the body. I like to have the block there for some extra support, but you're welcome to just not use the block at all. Maybe you actually need a second block if you're having trouble getting over to the first block. Now the focus of a twist is not to be in the lower back, but you want to really focus on getting that twist into the upper back. So see if you can engage that left shoulder and have that left shoulder push towards the floor. Maybe you feel a little stretch in your left glute as well. Again, remembering to breathe. With each inhale, lengthen. With each exhale, maybe go a little deeper into that twist. We're literally wringing everything out. Twists are really good for the organs. They also are really good for the chakras. They create warmth in the belly, especially that solar plexus. A couple more deep breaths here. Really enjoy the sensation of that twist. And on your next inhale, you're going to let that leg come up and release it down. Bringing the other knee into your chest, letting the left leg go straight onto the floor. Pulling your right leg towards you, place the block next to that left hip and go ahead and twist over to your left. Feeling the nice stretch in that right glute. Feeling that twist through the right side body. Letting your focus go towards bringing that right shoulder down towards the floor so that the twist is coming out of your upper back rather than your lower back. allowing your breath to deepen. On each inhale, lengthen a little bit more, and on each exhale, see if you can fall deeper into that twist. Sometimes that shoulder that started out hovering above the floor ends up on the floor by the end of the pose. Continue to maintain that breath. Maintain that present moment. Give yourself a couple more deep breaths here before we finish this pose. And letting everything just kind of wring out and twist out so that it will provide more nourishment once it releases. And to release this pose, go ahead and bring that leg back up. You can center yourself on the mat. And if you need to do anything before Shavasana, like stretching out your lower back at all, you can go ahead and do that. Otherwise, you can just come down into corpse pose. Corpse pose has many different ways you can do it without props, or maybe you want to put a pillow under your back, some blocks under your knees, bringing the soles of the feet together. There's all sorts of versions you can use for Shavasana. I personally like the traditional corpse pose, with my legs splayed out and my arms splayed out. If you want, you can close your eyes or maybe put something over them like a towel. Letting your breath deepen, letting gravity pull your body down to the floor, sinking deeper, sinking down a few levels, almost as if you're floating and the floor is rising up to greet you. Letting the eyes roll back into the head and the muscles behind them relax. Letting the jaw relax and the tongue fall back in the mouth. Notice if your teeth are clenched or open. Let them release as well. Just enjoy the sensations that this pose brings and let yourself drift off into a meditation. This is a long Shavasana, so you have about 5 minutes to enjoy. Starting to bring your awareness back to your body, back to your surroundings. You can deepen your breath, inhaling and exhaling. Maybe you want to wiggle the toes, wiggle the fingers, and slowly come back. And then we're going to go ahead and just roll over to our right side again into a fetal position. Enjoying the relaxation and the stillness. And in your own time, you can come up to a seat, crossing the legs in lotus pose again, bringing the fingertips out to the sides. On an inhale, bring the palms up together, and exhale, Ujjayi breath down. Inhale, sweep the arms up, exhale down. And one more, inhale, sweep them up, and exhale down. Bringing the thumbs to the forehead, may we have good thoughts. Thumbs to the lips, may we have good words. And thumbs to the heart, may our heart be good. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me in this Yin Yoga experience. I really hope you will continue to watch, and if you liked what you saw, please subscribe to my channel. It will always support me to continue to make videos like this. I really love to bring yoga and other movement videos to people to help them enhance their lives. And of course, this video featured my special guest, Bullseye the Savannah Cat. He is also a little bit of a star. You can find him on Instagram, actually. Of course, feel free to write me any comments or questions. I am happy to answer them, and I appreciate all feedback that you'd like to give, and maybe even other types of videos you'd like to see. Thanks again.